And welcome to my listeners of old and my listeners of new. Welcome to my channel. I am your host, Jeremy Speaks. It is Wednesday, which can only mean one thing in my household. It is NXT tonight. Anyway, I would like to thank all of my listeners. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting and subscribing. A couple of people subscribed to my YouTube channel that these are featured on. I would like to thank those people. And I would like to say to my fellow males of African origins, let's start speaking to each other. Let's start talking. Let's start conversating. Let's start informing. Let's start protecting each other, because we're the only ones out here who have each other's backs, or we should, because nobody else has ours. I would like to thank all of my listeners. Please continue to support and keep supporting my social media. I do the rundown every day when I do whether it's YouTube or whether it's this. You can follow me on Facebook. You can like me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever the social media things are nowadays. Follow me. I'm on one of them more than likely. And I want to mention this one more time before tomorrow's show. I have something going on with the Teespring site, and it's going to run in conjunction with something that I should have done last week. I forgot to do it last week, but I will do it. I also want to explain the scheduling of these shows. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I will be doing the 33 Dynasties series only on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays are call-in days. Those are when I'll be doing my Jeremy Speaks on Everything shows. So I just wanted to let that out there for any new listeners or old listeners who may be confused as to why all of a sudden you see me doing podcasts every single day. Anyway, I will be sharing certain clips from these episodes, various ones, and from the ones on Tuesdays and Thursdays featuring my callers. I will be sharing those on various sites like Podbean, Buzzsprout. Of course, Blog Talk has all of them. I'll be sharing them on Facebook. Twitter, I'm going to start. I'm not really a Twitter guy, but Twitter, I'm going to start. Instagram, I'm going to restart because, if I'm trying to reach as many people as possible, then I need to start using as many platforms and outlets as possible. Anyway, those are the platforms that I'll be using this on, sharing my blog talk. Call-in number for any of my guests who may be listening for the first time or tuning back in. It is 347-994-3320. I want to say that call-in number one more time, 347-994-3320. Normally, my days of calling in are reserved for Thursdays, but, if someone calls in on a day that's not necessarily Thursday, then I'll, begrudgingly, but I will answer the call. I want to shout out somebody right quick. I know I've been rambling on incoherently here, but I want to shout out somebody. It's one of my subscribers, somebody who's known me since I was in high school, who's always supported the channel, or he support the radio show whenever he see it go up. I want to shout out Smooth Thomason, and I'm going to tag you in this, and I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm mentioning you. I just wanted to say, stay motivated, man. I see you out there. I see what you're putting in. I see that just stay motivated. Thank you for your support. I want to say that personally. Thank you for your support, because you're consistent. You're very consistent, and I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. And I'm going to mark where I'm telling you this so that I can get that view, and I can get it, on Facebook or wherever. I just wanted to say I do appreciate the people that knew me before and know me now. And I just wanted to let him know I see him. I'm busy, but I just wanted to let him know, hey, man, I appreciate it. Anyway, moving on, now that we've gotten the sentimental stuff out of the way and the social media and stuff, Monday, I had a terrible experience with the audio on Blog Talk. I attempted to do the first installment, and I thought I was doing the first installment of like the first and second Dynasty, but then I edited the video, and the audio was fine. But when I posted it, something happened to the audio. I don't know what. I do have that video up. It's terrible, but I want to be a person that can publish his mistakes as well as when he does something correctly. So that'll be unlisted on my YouTube channel, the Negro Sports League. And yeah, today's episode should be fine though. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a good, very audible episode to listen to. You can subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I'll be posting these there consistently, pretty much every single day. And I'll thank you for your support there as well. All right. Into the 33 Dynasties of Egypt, the second installment as presented by Jeremy Speaks. I do invite more people or people with knowledge on this to inform me about things I may be wrong about or things that I may not even know. I do invite those people when I share this because I love learning, just learning anything, you know. So anybody with some background or some insight or even a comment, I invite you to educate me, or let's sit down and speak to each other about it. That's the whole theme of this. Anyway, Monday I covered the first and the second dynasty, and I did explain that the first dynasty was between like 3100 BC or all the way to like 35 BC. So, you know, a lot of people debate it, but it marks the early period where Egypt was unified, upper and lower. So I covered that Monday, and I covered a couple of the kings or rulers like Narmer, the Jet. Then I covered a couple of them, and I talked about some of the things that they created and like the fact that I was fascinated with the strainer. Also, they had dishes and beads and necklaces. I mean, it's crazy the stuff that they had that we know nothing about. Anyway, that was the first dynasty. Now, the second dynasty, I covered that as well, or attempted to. It's the latter of two dynasties that, you know, of the Egyptian archaic period. It had rulers and, you know, they at the end of the first dynasty, they stopped doing ritual sacrifices. They stopped cooking people, and they started to go more so in the pyramids. Not really a lot is known about either one of these two dynasties. So, I mean, I did the best I could as far as researching, but a lot of places I went had some of the same stuff and, you know. But in the course of researching, I did find out a little bit more about the Moors. And it's another guy that I found that was it goes to the benefit of the argument about the 33 dynasties. Dr. Yosef ben Jochannan, and he was considered to be one of the most prominent Afrocentric scholars by some in the Black nationalist community. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this guy is because this guy that I knew nothing about, Dr. Yosef, authored 49 books, primarily on ancient Nile Valley civilization and its influence on Western cultures. That is something. He wrote 49 books. I've never heard of a single one of them. In 1945, he received doctoral degrees in cultural anthropology and Moorish history from the University of Havana and the University of Barcelona, Spain. So, yeah, that guy knew a little bit about Moors. And as I stated before, Moors, for those who don't know, the Moors were Muslim inhabitants of North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, Sicily, and Malta. These are dark-skinned fellows here now. There's a whole bunch of them. They're dark-skinned. Just want to point that out. This was in 711 AD and 1492. Now, yesterday I covered a subject. You should go listen to it about the Spanish Inquisition and race. I covered that subject yesterday. And the Moors were mentioned in there. But, you know, the Moors are darker-skinned people. Anyway, they occupied Mazzara on Sicily, developing a port in 827. It's weird seeing 3 digits instead of like 4, right? They had a lot of intellectual achievements that had lasting effects in Spain when Europe had 2 universities. Europe. The Moors had 17. 17. We're not told about this. During the 10th century, Cordoba, not just the capital, but also one of the most important cities in the world, check this out, had street lighting, 50 hospitals with running water, 300 public baths, 500 mosques, and 70 libraries. Wow, right? That is beyond, I don't even have word. I'm kind of speechless because that's just a little bit of the stuff that I found about it. I haven't even dug deep into the Muslim, or not Muslim, excuse me. I haven't dug that deep into the history of the Moors, but now I really want to, because when you see something as impressive as they had 17 universities, 50 hospitals, they had street lights, they had 50 hospitals with running water, 300 baths, 500 mosques, and 70 libraries. Damn, how much of my history is in those books? Like, I don't, why am I not taught these things? I should be taught these things. That the history of the Moors is very important to the history of a lot of people, But as with a lot of things in life, it gets washed over. And it's not right to me. I'm kind of glad that people did keep this from me, so now I can go find out about it and be a little bit more knowledgeable about some arguments or I'm not gonna say arguments, some discussions I may have with people about just who it is I am. I had a guy once ask me, where did we get our color? Where do we get our color? I was like, that's not how that went down, man. But at the same time, I didn't have a valid argument to present him with evidence of why his thinking was backwards. Now I'm arming myself with knowledge so that when someone challenges me, I can get right into it. Anyway, we're moving right along in our continuation, the third dynasty of Egypt. The third dynasty is kind of short, so I may start the fourth dynasty, but I'm not really sure just yet. We'll get through it and see. The third dynasty of ancient Egypt is the first dynasty of the Old Kingdom. Other dynasties of the Old Kingdom included the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. And the capital was Memphis. Now, speaking of Memphis, right, like, here in the United States, we have a place, Memphis, I think Memphis, Tennessee. I think that's where the king, Elvis, lived or died or is from. I don't know how that goes. But Memphis is where the king lives. I think that's a very inconspicuous slap to the face right there. All right. After the turbulent last years of the second dynasty, which some scholars believe included a civil war. Now, like I stated, that there's not a whole lot of records on the first and second dynasties, but somewhere this research concluded that it may have ended in civil war. Egypt came under the rule of Djoser, Djoser, and it marks the beginning of the third dynasty. They have all kind of lists. One of them's called the Turin list. One of them's called the Abydos king list, and one of them's called a Saqqara tablet. And they have all these kings. Two of the tablets have the same kings. One of the tablet has a bunch of different ones. Now, I don't really know how to yet interpret that. I guess I have to read. These names are crazy. Just throw letters together, huh? And they also have a problem dating the third dynasty. Like, they don't know what exactly a time frame to put on it. Some of them say that, like the Turin list that I mentioned earlier, suggests 75 years for the third dynasty. But a couple of other people placed it at like 2650 BC to 2575 BC. And two more people dated, I think Dotson and Hilton, they dated from 2584 to 2520 BC. Now, they off by about 100 years, give or take, in my opinion. Like, you can't just cram it in to try to make it fit the narrative. because you want the story to run a certain way. But that goes to show you that even the people that are supposed to research this stuff and go to college for this stuff, they don't even know. Are we really that big of a mystery as males of African origin? We don't really get credit for much in history, but I mean, damn, are we that big of a mystery? It says that the rulers, my research, when I say it or I refer to that, my research shows me that the pharaohs of the third dynasty ruled for approximately 75 years. 75 years. These were kings. And they buried the pyramids started to show up more so in this dynasty. You know? Imhotep, I mentioned him Monday, even though you may not be able to tell through the crappy audio. Imhotep was a doctor, philosopher, scientist. He knew how to diagnose concussions. He knew when something was wrong with your head. He knew that you needed to sleep or you didn't need to sleep. I read up on all of that. Imhotep was a very brilliant man. He's believed to have lived during this dynasty, even though they do point out in some historical texts, I think it's the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt that I saw, where Dozier was the first king of this dynasty, and they fluctuate on who went here and who went there. I don't know how they know. It's something called, it's mentioned in the Papyrus Westcar, which is an important document that kind of lists what's going on. Matthew wrote, he named it. I mentioned him Monday as well, even though you probably won't be able to hear it that well. And little is known. I mean, they do keep some records, but like for the most part, the third dynasty is kind of like the first two. It's only thing that's really recorded is like the kings or the cattle count. Cattle count is how they collected taxes in ancient Egypt. Like every 2 years they have a cattle count, and that's how they paid for stuff. I want to dig a little deeper into a cattle count. I want to see what that's more about. As we have about 10 minutes remaining, so I think I have enough time to start the fourth dynasty, because the third dynasty really only has lists of kings. It doesn't really go in depth into like who they were. They list some of the kids like Nebka or Huni and Nefer. All right, Neferkare. It lists those wives, things like that, but it doesn't really go in depth a whole lot. I don't think there's a lot left from that time period that people can go and research. But that was the third dynasty in a nutshell, kind of like the first two. It's kind of short and sweet and to the point. Kings ruled, people had civil war, people fought, people didn't like each other. The fourth dynasty of ancient Egypt. We'll start this one. Will we get all the way through it? I'm not sure. This must be when they started keeping more records of what was actually going on. The fourth dynasty of ancient Egypt was called the Golden Age of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. It lasted from 2613 to 2494 BC, and it's claimed that it was peaceful and people established trade with other countries. It also was the height of the pyramid building age. The peace of the third dynasty allowed the fourth dynasty, leisure to paint pictures and, cultural and artistic freedoms. People, I guess, were prosperous in the third dynasty like that. I guess it something happened along that I have to research. Like I said, I have a book called The Oxford History of Egypt. I have to research a little bit. There's a king named Sneferu, Sneferu. He experimented with building, and it evolved from the mastaba-style step pyramids to the smooth-sided true pyramids, like the one in Giza. And in this particular dynasty, no one after it could touch the architectural accomplishments. Think about that for a minute. It's 33 of these. And in the fourth one, nobody could touch the architectural accomplishment. That's crazy to think about. Something that was done all the way back in like 2600 BC couldn't be touched all the way, they still look at pyramids and wonder, oh my gosh, they know we put it up there. Anyway, they actually have a painted I saw a picture of this. It was a limestone sphinx, like the sphinx in Egypt, with the nose and the lips blown off, of course, of Hetepheres II. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She was one of the longest living members of the Fourth Dynasty royal family. Pretty much. And they have a picture of her, I guess, cats, lions. Lions were a big deal, And that's okay. They could be. I dig it, Got to worship something, I guess. Each of the rulers of this dynasty had at least one pyramid commissioned to serve as a tomb or a cenotaph. Okay. This king that I mentioned, Sneferu, he was the first king of the Fourth Dynasty. He had territory in ancient Libya, and it went all the way to the west in the Sinai Peninsula to Nubia in the south. Now, that word Nubia is, I'm assuming Nubian comes from that. It was successful. It was a successful period in this era and known for its advancements and government that was concentrated. And the way you could tell is that the building of the pyramids and other monuments was so organized. Our understanding of the Old Kingdom comes from the structures and the objects in the Giza desert cemeteries. Kings during the age of the pyramid, Khufu. I like that name, Khufu. Menkaure, Khafre. These names look like, they have wives, because they have wives on here. Khafre had 1, 2, 3, 4. He's buried in the pyramid of Khafre. That's his pyramid. Like they 4 wives. Can you imagine? They call this king Sneferu. He was the bringer of beauty, the master of all justice, and the ruler of lower and upper. Now, this guy has some taglines. This guy has some, like the wrestling thing I mentioned from time to time. Like, there's a guy, Shawn Michaels. They call him the showstopper, the main event, Mr. WrestleMania. Like, I read over this guy's names, and this guy's names read off like they introducing him like he's about to come out at the main event, or he is the main event. He ascended to the throne by marrying a princess. Don't nobody know who his daddy was, and it can't be confirmed because the dynasties broke up. But his mother was a lesser wife or a concubine uni, which would technically not qualify him for having royal blood. The concubine thing. She wasn't the wife. Egypt in the 3rd millennium BC, in the 4th dynasty, by all accounts, was a land of peace. Elites ate good. They dressed good, if they dressed at all. The king would float down. He float down the Nile, covered only in fishnets. Now it takes some balls to do that, and he only covered in fishnet. Sneferu was also the first king to proclaim that he was the embodiment of Ra, another sun deity, and his son would also take that. It's like. The son, I guess his daddy was such a big deal, he wanted to be a big deal. He took the name Son of the Sun God. That's what's up right there. On the whole, Egypt was ruled by 2 sets of powers, legal authority and traditional authority. They had people in place, I guess, they called them visors and nomarchs, where I guess these guys would be like congressmen nowadays. Traditional authority was derived from the concept that the deities gave a king the divine right to rule as he pleased. This Egyptian 4th dynasty government was so organized that only the king could direct traditional authority. That is power. He did. He wasn't perfect. The bent pyramid, that was his first attempt, and it slopes now. But you got to try stuff. Like I'm trying this radio show every day. Like you have to try stuff to see exactly where you go. See, we are people, the males of African origin. We kind of hard-headed, so when stuff don't go right, we're kind of stubborn sometimes. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. They built pyramids, obviously. And, I mean, people refer to this as the age of the pyramid. There were also religious changes and custom changes, like the customs of the land, they changed. So the architecture and the history of the people changed. Anyway, age of the pyramid. It was not just about the building of large and easily recognizable structures, but it meant that it was a change in how they buried people and the rituals that they had. The elites would bury themselves and become mummies. Extensive mummification, I think I read that right. Religious changes, religious practices where the sun, they used to worship the sun. And something called the cult of Ra grew in size. So they had religions back then too. I mean, but at this point, kings would no longer associate pyramids with the afterlife, They also made custom changes. It's some pretty graphic ways, but I want to keep like my PG, my rating. I don't know how that works yet. I might say something offensive, but they would bury people. They had 3 or 4 ways to bury people. They would put them in stucco, which they would wrap the body in plaster, linen, where they would wrap them up in linen, swaddling clothes, lying in a manger, and defleshing. Defleshing, which was the one that really kind of got my attention. They would remove all the flesh and wrap the bones in linen. But the organs were removed and then put in jars that would accompany bodies into tombs, and the inside of the body was fleshed out. That is a terrible, 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 terrible way to describe that. It's very visually, it pops off the page when you read it. The tombs changed. Rich people didn't want to be buried like everybody else, but they did want their tombs filled with hieroglyphics. And because when your tomb was written with hieroglyphics, it displayed wealth, and it guided souls to the afterlife. So they thought. The Fourth Dynasty didn't have these writings, but the tombs were deeper and the superstructures were larger. And that is a brief synopsis of the Fourth Dynasty. I would like to thank all my guests. I would like to give out that call-in number for anyone who may be listening. Once again, that is 347-994-3320. Tomorrow I will be having my Jeremy Speaks on Everything show at 6:30. Join me then. I have been Jeremy Speaks. Like, share, subscribe, comment, criticize. It is all welcome. And I bid you all good day. Men of African origin, let's start speaking to each other.